Good morning. It's Wednesday morning, May 1st. This morning, I was in Psalms 5 through 8. And two verses I wanted to share on. Chapter 8, verses 3 and 4. Psalms 8, 3 and 4. David here, he's speaking. And David says, "When I look at your heavens and the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set into place, what is man that you are mindful of him, and the Son of Man that you care for him?" David's saying, hey, when I sit and look at the heavens, and the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set in place. David's probably sitting outside, looking at the heavens, looking at the sky, looking at all the stars, looking at how big everything is. You know, with our eyeballs, we can only see a glimpse of how deep the universe is. How deep, it's just never ending. We really don't know how big everything is out there. We don't know what the end of it is. And that's with all the technology and the telescopes we have today. And yet in David's day, he was able just to look and see what he saw. And he understood, wow, it's incredible. When I look at your heavens, he said, that belongs to you, Lord. That belongs to God. They're his heavens. They're the work of his fingers. He's saying, you made it. You created it. You shaped it and formed it. And then he looks and he says, and I see the moon and the stars. How many there are. And, in David's day, because there wasn't all kinds of light bulbs on the planet, the sky he must have been looking at was just incredibly covered with stars. The sky was just lit up with stars. And he says, I look at all the heavens, your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars, which you have set into place, God. You are so magnificent. You are so mighty. You are so powerful. You are so brilliant that you set all these things into place. They all revolve and stay the distance that they're supposed to stay from each other so they don't collide. You've got it all worked out mathematically. It's incredible. God is just an incredible being that created all these things. And then he looks and says, he looks at himself. And he says, so what is man that you're mindful of? Who are we that you would even think about us? That you would spend your time caring about us? That we would be in your thoughts? That you would worry about us? That you would be concerned about us? That you would choose to bless us? That you would want the best for us? That you would provide for us? David sees how big God is and how small he is. He says, why do you even think about me? What is in man that you are mindful of us? And the Son of Man, that you care for him, to my children, that you care for my children and my grandchildren, that you are concerned about the generations of people. It's easy for us to think we're important. It's easy for us to think, well, man runs the planet. It's easy for us to look at the civilizations that man has built and think, wow, man is really important. It's easy for us to look at things that people invent and think, man has the ability to do so much. But it's nothing compared to God. And it's in a small way, it's like us looking at the ants coming in and out of an anthill and seeing how they take care of their community, how they all work together. And then us worrying about them, wanting to take care of them, providing for them. We don't do that. They do that for themselves. Can you imagine if you're an ant looking up and seeing one of us and thinking, he thinks about me constantly. He cares about me. He knows that he wants me to have a good future. We don't think like that towards ants. And the difference between us and ants and us and God is there's no comparison. God is so much greater, so much bigger. So when we really stop and think about it, we have to ask ourselves like David, Lord, why would you be mindful of me? Why does your heart go out towards me? Why? The answer is real simple. It certainly has nothing to do with us. It has nothing to do with our greatness. It has nothing to do with our goodness. Look at what we've done to the world. Look around you and our history. The history of man has been nothing but wars and fights and anguish. And people that might build some culture and then allow it to be destroyed. And one nation builds itself up and then wants to destroy other nations. All you got to do is look around yourself today and see the wars and the fights and the arguing and the division and the bitterness and the hatred. It has nothing to do with man's goodness or man's intelligence or the heart of man that God is so taken with that he just thinks we're so good that he can't take his eyes off of us. It has nothing to do with that. It all has to do with him. That for some reason that we really can't understand. If we're honest with ourselves and honest with people around us, it's only because of him. That God is love. He's filled with mercy. He's filled with compassion. He's filled with love. He is filled with hope. And his eyes are always upon us. His heart is always out towards us, wanting good. He hungers and desires for fellowship with us. Why? It's a mystery. But he loves us. We'll never know the answer to the question, why do you love us? But he does. We just need to bask in it, receive it, enjoy it, swim in it, and love him back. That's all we can do is love him back. And enjoy his love. Enjoy his presence. Acknowledge that he loves us. Why, we don't know. He came, he became one of us. He gave his life on the cross that we might be forgiven for our sins, that we might have fellowship with him, communication with him, a love relationship with him, that we might live in his kingdom forever and ever and ever. Paul in the New Testament said that he just prayed that we might understand the height, the depth, and the width of God's love, how big it was. When I read that verse, what I think of, I see myself in an ocean, nobody else around, land nowhere in sight, no ships in sight, just ocean. And that ocean is the love of God. It's that big. We can be drowned by his love. We can be overwhelmed by his love. There's no ending to it. And all he asks us to do is receive it. Is receive it and live in it and breathe in it and allow his love to change us and to mold us and to shape us into the image of his Son. Why? Why he would choose to do that? We have no answers for that. We can come up with them. In the scheme of things, we are so small. And yet he has chosen to treasure us, to see us as the treasure in his heart. Thanks for listening to me today.